wax cylinders to play for you tonight. After Greg has finished, we will play the new wax cylinder that we have made, and then we'll play a gig over in the other corner. But if I can introduce you to Greg first, who will tell you about wax cylinders and play some of them for you.
Thank you very much, Dan. Just take your minds back, if you will, 140 years. Yeah, I'm sure you can remember that far back. At that time, there was no recorded music. There was no recording at all. Just imagine your life now if there was no recorded sound. That's the invention of a machine that could record and play back sound is a bigger breakthrough for our lives than the internet or sliced bread or anything else really you can imagine. You just think what your life would be like if you couldn't hear any recorded sounds. So this invention, which was made in 1877 by Thomas Alva Edison, really changed the world as we know it now. These wax cylinders that I'm going to play are 110 years old. So I'm only going to play 3 because actually they're quite difficult to listen to. If you want to hear more later, then I will play some more later. But just to give you a little flavour of what they are like. The machines date back to 1905. These are both standard machines. I have got some other ones as well, but this will just give you a little flavour of what the sound is like. When they recorded these sounds, there was no electronic amplification, so the sound is recorded acoustically. In other words, you shout down, you do the reverse of what we're going to do. You shout down the horn, and it vibrated a needle which cut the wax and cut the grooves in the wax. And by playing back that, you could vibrate this little diaphragm. There's a little diaphragm in there, just like diaphragm in your throat, and that vibrates and makes a sound back. In the very, very early recording sessions, they would have a bank of 13 of these wax cylinder machines, and they would record 13 at a time, and the band would play in front of these 13 machines. And so if they wanted to release a record with, let's say, 100 records, then they would have to record it 8 times. So each record, each batch of 13 would be slightly different. Eventually they found a way, which these ones are, of actually capturing with a master. And the way they did that was that the wax was made first of all in that way, and then they would electrostatically charge the wax so it got coated with gold powder. You can see on there it says gold moulded. What they would then do is that they would electrolyse the gold and coat it with copper. And when there was a big thick coating of copper around the gold which had covered the wax, they would then mount the wax, put a spindle through the middle, and then they used that as the mould for making these. And that way they could actually make them out of a slightly higher melting point wax, and they would last a lot longer, so they would be more robust. So that's how they made these particular records. They go around at 160 revolutions per minute, so much faster than even 78s that came after them. There is no loss of sound as the record goes through, because it's going at the same speed all the way along. Whereas with a record, as you get towards the middle of the record, the quality of the sound decreases. That's not so with this particular machine. It's played with a sapphire stylus inside there, which then pulls on a little string which pulls down the diaphragm. The wax record itself does not move the diamond stylus along. Instead, behind here there is a screw, and the back of the arm of that catches onto the screw, and the screw takes it along the record in exactly the same pace as the grooves are cut. Okay, the whole thing lasts just 2 minutes, and so my whole concert's only going to last 8 minutes, so there'll be 3 original cylinders, and then the fantastic railroad bill cylinder. These particular machines, the way the wax is cut, it's not side to side like that. The grooves are not that way, like on a record that you get nowadays. It's up and down. So you've got like what they call hill and dales. So the needle vibrates that way. What that actually means in reality is that you can't have any bass. Because if you have bass sounds, the needle will literally jump out of the groove. And you get a strange kind of clattering sound. So if you try and record drum and bass on there, you won't hear the bass. When we actually record something to put onto wax cylinder, you have to take a lot of the bass notes out. Anything below 300 cycles, 300 hertz, just really you can't have it on the record. It just doesn't come out. So let's have a play. I'm going to play. The first one is a banjo solo called Cotton Blossoms. Then we're going to have a concertina solo, and then we'll have a full band. So let's see how we get on. So this one's called Cotton Blossoms. So this is 110 years old. Now you may think you can hear bass in there, but what they actually use is a lot of brass. And brass has a lot of resonance. And what you do is that you hear all the overtones of the resonance, and your mind puts in the bass notes. They're not actually there on the recording. Some people said at the time it would be the death of live music, because you wouldn't need live musicians. They could just go in the studio, you would just record them, and then you could listen to them at home at your leisure. Wax cylinders will be the death of live music.
Do you have to wind up the actual phonograph?
Yes, it's all clockwork inside. Because it's not taking any weight like a record, like a gramophone, each wind will play on this particular machine about 3 cylinders. The other one, I think it slips a little bit, so probably only one with the other one.
Can I ask you, Greg, do you think it's the mark of an outright nutter to be recording a wax cylinder in this day and age?
No, I think it's back to the future. Well, you can see what's happened with vinyl. I expect, quite honestly, wax cylinders to go the same way. There'll be people queuing up to get the latest wax cylinder release.
And in our band, it's much better to imagine the bass than actually have it in live.
Right, so that's the first one.